welcome to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I am Renee Allen, the host of this podcast. It's Tuesday, and I'm excited to be here. Today, I want to talk to you about an idea that I really liked learning about, and I've applied it to a lot of areas of my life, and that is that life is 50-50. I don't know if you've ever listened to Brooke Castillo or any life coaches. Most of them, if they went to the life coach school, which seems to be the life coach school of all schools, is run under Brooke Castillo. And I used to listen to her podcast years ago. And one of her principles was life is 50-50, meaning that I think she applied it more to, if you look at Instagram or if you look at other people's lives, or you look at your own life, you might think, oh gosh, this is not going great. Why isn't it going great? I want things to go really well all the time. And look at that person's life. Their life is going well all the time. They have it all together. They don't have any children that they struggle with. They don't have problems financially. All of these things that we might see when we see other people may or may not be true. I'm not convinced that there aren't some people who have more than others in terms of things going well. That maybe that's just because I'm not really aware of all that's going on for them. But her point was that life is 50-50. And if you put that in your brain, that 50% of the time, things aren't going to go well, might not be great. You might have a financial hit there, here and there. That is predictable. That is just the way life is. And it's not to be doom and gloom about it. Things can only go well half of the time, but it's more of a, oh, when things don't go well, I can just put it in that category. Well, I guess that's part of the 50. That's part of the 50 that didn't go well, but this part of the 50 is going to go well. And if you're a nitpicky person about premises in posts or memes or anything, I am. When people make statements like that, I think, well, is it really 50-50? It might be 48-52. It might be 60-40. It might be 70-30, whatever that is. But the idea is if we think it's going to be good 100% of the time, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment, discouragement, losing hope, all of those things when things aren't going well all the time. And you might have experienced enough in life that you're not expecting it to go well all the time. But it really is nice to have that thought in your mind when there is something devastating that happens or whatever. There's just so many categories that could fit into that you can say, yeah, I knew life wasn't always going to go well. And this is, going toward that 50%. And it's helpful too when you're scrolling through Instagram or something, or watching the Academy Awards or seeing these people, like they just had the SNL 50th anniversary or whatever. I don't know all that's going on with that, but my husband was watching it the other night and I walked in. And what I noticed at the end when Paul McCartney was singing on stage, and we've seen him in concert a few times, so that was fun to hear him sing that song at the end and see the people we'd seen, and mostly just to be reminded of the concerts that we went to with our kids. But looking in the audience and you're seeing, super famous people and thinking, how nice would that be to be invited to sit, 10 rows back, 5 rows back, first row, whatever, and get to be in a private concert with Paul McCartney. We had to pay whatever we paid and sit way up high at Dodger Stadium or Allegiant Stadium. And that's what worked for us. And so there's sometimes that unfairness, like, oh, those people must have all the perks in life and, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. I'm sure their life is 50-50 or worse. That's what I tend to think with really famous people is we also see the dips in their lives, and it doesn't always go that well. We know that too, huh? And I shouldn't base my happiness on other people, but it's easy to compare. It's easy to compare and just have thoughts like that. So I was thinking about this idea, the life is 50-50 idea the other day, and wanted to talk to you about it, not really for that idea of comparing and how well is my life going, because at some point we become more content with how our lives are going, or hopefully most of the time we are. I'm not always comparing myself to famous people, but I do see things like that, like how come they get these opportunities and I don't, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm fine with my life. But what I really wanted to apply the 50-50 to was if you're seeing things in a mathematical equation, whatever your 60-40 or 70-30 or 50-50, and you just know there's a portion of time that things won't go as well. If you also look at your amount of time that you have each day, each week, each month, each year, and really look at it logically, it helps when you get overwhelmed or think you can never get everything done that you want to do. Or if you do chase after something that you really want to do, other things fall apart. And you can look at it as, the life's 50-50 thing. But also, if you just look at the time in the day, it helped me at some point in my life to realize that I spent a lot of time inside my house. This is when my kids were younger and I was a stay-at-home mom. I spent a lot of time inside the house doing things to help our home run smoothly, because that's important to me. I'm laughing because it is important to me to have order and to get rid of clutter. And at the same time, I'm kind of laughing because there were always those areas of the home, like my desk. Paperwork has always been the bane of my existence, and my heart rate goes up when I even say that because it does. It gives me that oh my gosh, that's a hard thing to deal with. It is. I'm really glad I live in the digital age when, even though we still get mail that we have to work through and papers that we take home from the doctor's office or they send home from the pharmacy, and you're like, okay, I can't put this in the shredder because it has a staple on it, or I have to do this with it. Like there's just a lot of little decisions to make, or a lot of steps to take care of papers. And you might be somebody that's like, oh, this is how you do it. And it works well. And that is fantastic. We all have our struggles, but that's one of mine. And looking at your day and your hours as an equation is helpful, because if you do that 50-50, 60-40, 70-30 thing and think of it as, if I put something in, that other number is going to change, right? So if you have 24 hours in the day and you decide, I need to start exercising, I'm going to exercise for an hour every day, go to the gym for an hour every day, or work out at home for an hour every day. Well, you might need to factor in a half hour for getting there or getting dressed or whatever preparation to get there and finish or take a shower afterwards or whatever. So let's say you just add that hour and a half into your day that you weren't doing before. And all of a sudden you're wondering, how come the kitchen's always a mess? How come I can't keep up on the kitchen? Or how come my car is a mess and I haven't taken my car to wash it in I don't know how many months? And you start to think, I'm doing this now and I'm feeling good about that, but now that is falling apart. Or for me, I spent a lot of time inside my house, keeping it running, doing laundry, doing whatever I did. I did a lot of organizing toy closets, things like that. That I don't know, it mattered at the time. Now I think that I actually enjoy organizing too. So it's probably I was choosing things that I like to do. But I would go out to my car or drive home and see my yard and think, oh, I'm kind of embarrassed when people come over, because my side yard was kind of run down. The side of our house at this one house that we lived in had bushes and things, but weeds, and, wasn't really beautiful. You go to some homes and you see their front yard is beautifully, what do you call it, cared for. There's some words for that. But yeah, mine wasn't like that. And every once in a while I think, okay, this is important to me. I'm going to buy some plants. I'm going to put them in. I even planted a garden once, and this was, oh my goodness, 1993, a long time ago. But I planted a garden because I thought that would be really fun to have a vegetable garden. And I borrowed someone's rototiller. It was before the internet, at least before I knew about the internet, before I had a computer. And got it all rototilled. I learned a few things to do, planted everything. But I didn't know you had to, I don't know. I didn't know all these weeds were going to come up and then I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the weeds and the plants. And I didn't like it. It was a bit overwhelming. I really didn't know what I was doing. And since then, I've kind of adopted it's a survival. What is it? Survival of the fittest. That's usually my front yard. Whatever survives gets to live there without me giving a lot of attention to it. But then that leads to me being a little embarrassed by what it looks like walking up to my front door. And so I've had to balance that because I have a friend who is super good with gardening. And I love to go walk through her greenhouse and walk through her garden and see the little fences and things that she does to keep the deer from getting in. And she puts a ton of work into it. And I think, oh, I should be doing that. And one day it hit me, if you spent that much time doing that, would you be okay with how the inside of your house looked? Because you don't have enough hours in the day to do both. So if you were to give that much time to it, which I actually enjoyed, once I got outside, I enjoyed it. And I think, yeah, this is really fun using a shovel and doing all this stuff. But it's not what I wanted to do all the time because I'd rather live with the yard not being as pretty and have my house in order than having fun out in the yard and going inside and just thinking, okay, now I can't function. And so at some point, I learned to make peace with the idea that I wasn't able to garden the way my friend Sherry did. And it probably had a lot to do with her interest. And we talk now, and she says, oh, I 100% have ADHD too. And that's how she gets relief with hers, is to go outside and garden. That's where she gets her joy, with the sunshine and stuff. And I like it too, but not to the point that I think I have too much dysfunction in the house if things get cluttered or out of hand or whatever. So I had to choose. I had to choose which percentage of my time would be outside, which would be very, very minimal, and which percentage would be inside. And that has helped me to kind of know life is like, for me, like what, probably 98 too. Wait, is that right? Make up to 100, spell 100. Does that add up to 100? Yeah, it does. So my inside to outside was like 98 too. Or I get into my car and I think, oh, why don't you spend a little time cleaning out this car? It might be, less gross, or you'd be less embarrassed. I think about it more when other people get in the car than I do when I'm in it. But I think about that. And I think because most of the time when you get inside, you forget, and that's okay. And you like what you're doing inside. So that's okay. Can you live with this? Yes. Well, if you can't live with it and you do have resources, you could pay someone to do it, or, take time out of your day to go to a car wash, which I know I could do, but I don't, or hire someone to help you through your yard. I've done that a few times. We haven't done it at this house because I don't know, I just haven't taken the time to find somebody that would be able to do it maybe at a price I could afford. But where we used to live, we had someone come every other week, and that worked to a manageable point. But figuring that out for yourself, things that you're frustrated that you can't do, or that you don't have time to do, or you wish you took time to do, if you really want to do them, it takes some effort to get into a new pattern for sure. But if you really want to do it, you need to also be at peace with either hiring somebody to do what you used to do, if you need it to stay at that point. Like if you're going to spend more time starting an online business, or spend more time donating your time, doing charity work, or getting a job somewhere. If you're gone 4 hours out of the day and you've been home before that, you either have to be okay with not having that 4 hours of time at home to keep up with things like you used to, or you need to find someone to help you with it. Make peace with it somehow, resolve it somehow, and not feel bad that you can't do it all. Because unless you're going to stay up later, get up earlier, run on empty, and not get as much sleep, there aren't enough hours in the day to do everything that you want to do. And why is this extra, extra important for women with ADHD? For one thing, women tend to feel more of the responsibility of what needs to be done at home. Maybe it's not like that in your home, but traditionally women have taken on that responsibility for laundry, for kitchen, for order in the closets, or whatever that is. And in your home, it might be different in different places. For us, I never do anything in the garage because my husband loves the garage. He loves to have every inch of it if he can. And anytime I've had any real estate in the kitchen, kitchen in the garage, it's been very, very minimal. Right now, I just have some camping chairs, which obviously he uses too. But if it was his choice, they wouldn't even be in there. They'd be in this shed, and that's too far in our little forest. And I don't want to walk back there to get them all the time to put them in the car. And so I've kind of not fought for space in it, but I've just said this, I want these to be here. Or a car seat from the car. If I have a booster seat or something for the grandchildren, I keep them in the garage. I don't want them in that shed space, that storage space. That happened once, and the bugs in Florida are next level. It took me 2 hours of power washing everything. You can't even imagine what I did to get the bugs to stop coming out of that thing. I'm sorry if I hate bugs. I do too. It was a nightmare. I'll never store anything outside it again. And then at our last house, we had a second fridge, and we do in this house too, but we have room for that second fridge in the laundry room. At the last house, it was in the garage. The fridge was in the garage. And I think at some point he was okay with it because it gave kind of a shelf space on top of it to put things on. And then he also likes to paint cars. And so he had pieces of, I don't know what you call it. It's like a big flat magnet that's shiny on one side. And he would spray them with colors that he'd like to paint the car. And then he could put it on the side of the car and see what it would look like. And so he put those all over the fridge. And I think he thought that was fun. But yeah. Why am I telling you this? Because that's what we do when we have ADHD. Sometimes we share. So you might have parts of your house that you never feel responsible for, or you don't feel like it's weighing on your mind, your mental to-do list. You might have a mental to-do list. You might have a physical to-do list. I stopped writing those a long time ago because they stressed me out. But I usually have a mental to-do list. And as I walk around the house, and when you have ADHD, your attention can jump from this to this to this to this. And I've heard people say, oh, there's not an attention deficit. We don't have a problem paying attention. We pay attention to too many things. Well, that's not really paying attention in my book, to just like pay attention to something for a little bit of time. What the attention deficit, I think, is actually accurate, because I think, at least my understanding is that it means we can't pay attention to one thing for very long, or it's challenging to do that. We have more challenges with that. And so if your attention is jumping around during the day, forgetting to do things on the one hand, but then thinking of all the things that, oh yeah, I forgot to do that. I need to do that too. And you walk in this room, oh, I need to do that. And you get in your car, oh, I should have washed the car. Oh, I need to do, oh yeah, and I need to do laundry. And you might wake up knowing that you need to do some of those things and forget about them, or go to bed just overwhelmed because you knew you wanted to do 20 things and you did 3. And you think, oh, like another day went by, I could have been more productive. And it's good to know that you can only do so much with the time that you have. And there may be days that you truly are more productive, that you're working faster or you're better focused. But if you ever want to get a lot done, or do something new, or make a change in your home, let's say you want to paint a room, it's something that's out of your normal day-to-day routine. You want to add something to your routine, like you want to start exercising or going on a walk or going to a book club once a week, or whatever it is, a new hobby. You've always wanted to learn to crochet. More power to you if you can crochet. That never made sense to me. But I do have a good friend here who has ADHD 1000%. We talk about it a lot. She crochets right and left. And so it works for some brains. It just does not work for mine. But if you want to spend time doing something like that, and it's not normally part of your week or your day, or something happens that's not part of your usual routine, like you get sick, or you have a child who's sick, or you have to go to doctor's appointments more than usual, or whatever that may be, you have visitors from out of town. And so you spend 2 or 3 days just visiting and showing them places where you live that you probably don't usually do from day to day, but you do when visitors come because you want to show them the greatest things about where you live. And when you do that, when they leave, your to-do list is bigger. And that can be overwhelming too. It's really fun to get things back to normal at home, but then you think, okay, what did I not do in the past few days that stacked up? And now I've got to do that. Or maybe I have more laundry. I'm going to wash all the sheets and the bedding and the towels. And if you need to do something different, something new, something more, you might feel like you're behind. You might feel like that to-do list is just growing and you're not getting it done. And instead of looking at life that way, as that list of things, because with ADHD, we often have so many thoughts in our minds, so many boxes to check off, so many ideas of something else we'd like to do, or I'd love to get together with my friends. I'd like to plan a dinner party. And then it gets closer to it and you're like, oh my goodness, how am I supposed to get ready for that? How am I supposed to have time to do all of that? And you start to wonder why you committed to it. The ideas, the creativity can lead to overwhelm sometimes, or all the things that we need to do might lead to overwhelm. But if you just let go of thinking that anything on your list, or especially everything on your list, needs to be done in the same day or the same week or in that month. You might have something that you really want to get done in December, but with everything that comes up at Christmas time, you never get it done. And that's okay. That's okay. I mentioned giving yourself grace a lot of when things don't work out or you're not able to do everything or your brain doesn't work like you wish it would. Giving yourself grace is important. But I feel like with this, looking at it logically is even easier than giving it grace because you're thinking, of course I couldn't do all of that. Of course I couldn't. There isn't enough time in the day. There isn't enough time in the day. And if you recognize logically that what you have in your brain as important to do is physically, mentally, emotionally impossible, then hopefully you don't even get to the point of regret or discouragement or just feeling bad about yourself. That you're not having to have a coping mechanism like, oh, come on, give yourself some grace. You couldn't have done it all anyway. If you start seeing life in that way, and today I'm going to take the kids and we're going to go swimming, or we're going to go to the beach, or we're going to do this. And knowing that when you do that, I won't have as much time when we get home to have a nice dinner. We'll just heat up some whatever. We'll just, in my house, we just have popcorn. And then we very much simplify dinner. It's probably not, nutritionally sound, but it's what we do because I've made peace with that I don't have an expectation of what dinner should be anymore because that's what I've needed to do with the amount of time, energy that I'm putting elsewhere. At some point, I gave myself that out, that didn't need to be a part of my day anymore unless I really wanted it to be a part of my day. Unless we were having people over for dinner or I said, hey, everyone come over for tacos, just my kids or something. I mean, my kids are older now, but, the younger ones, I don't think they remember that I used to cook dinner all the time. And in some ways that makes me sad, but I think, whatever it is what it is. I can't convince them. I can't convince them. But just knowing that life has a time frame and you can do what you need to do, want to do, have to do within that time frame. And whatever doesn't fit, doesn't fit. It's just as simple as that. It doesn't fit. And there may be times that I am just caught up on laundry and I can walk around the house and hardly see any clutter. And there's other times, like when I send out Christmas cards, it's still important for me to send out Christmas cards. In an era of emailing, social media, a lot of people don't do it anymore. A lot of people post their family pictures and tell everyone Merry Christmas or send an email and put a newsletter with it. And for whatever reason, it's still important to me, even though, my goodness, it's getting so expensive to send out Christmas cards. But I'm trying to do it, kind of like I said, with okay, weighing, do I want to spend this much time doing it, or do I want to pay somebody else to do it? And most of my Christmas cards, I'm having the Christmas card company mail them for me, which I'm paying, a lot extra for that. But it's just a different system, but it's working. And I obviously I haven't made peace with it because I'm complaining about the price. But yeah, it's just trying to let our brains know, don't feel bad, because our brains want to do new things and everything, and we just have so many ideas and we want to follow them all. And I don't know, I like being productive. And when I can't be, I have to tell myself, yes, you get your energy from being productive. But if you're sick or things come up and you're having grandchildren come over a lot and you may not be productive, that is okay. It's a trade-off. It's a trade-off to get my body healthy if I'm sick, or put my foot up if I've broken it for the third time, and just give my body what it needs instead of my brain what it needs. Or with my grandchildren, I just have to switch to a different mode. I have to switch, and I did this when kids were at home too. I had to switch to be present and forget about the other things. Soak in this moment and forget about the other things. Sit here and play Sorry or Chutes and Ladders with your grandchild. And especially because they need to learn. And I'm not saying their parents aren't doing it at all. I'm just saying that any opportunity that they can have for communication one-on-one and getting attention and love is so valuable for them, especially for them to grow up in a time where so much of communication is digital. And I'm seeing the value of that, because I, even with my youngest child, I didn't play games with him as much. And part of that is he would get upset if he didn't win, and so I got tired of that. And I'm just like, I'm not playing life with you anymore, which is funny because we are doing life together. But yeah, he used to. I feel bad. He used to sit in the living room and set up a game and try to get us to play with him. And he's 20, I think now. Wait, what is it? 2025? Is he 22? Yeah, he's 22. But yeah, we didn't always play games with him because he'd get mad if he wasn't winning. so it's just like, hey, I'm not gonna play with you. But anyway, I'm older and wiser now with my grandchildren, and I'm realizing that the time that I spend with them, one, we see our children grow up so fast. So we think, oh, I got to soak in these moments with these little cutie pies and carve out the time for them, and let go of the idea that it's going to be a disaster if my floor gets really dirty again. I cleaned it up. Why did I clean it up? Now it's all dirty again. But that is life. Part of life is maintaining, doing, and part of it is atrophy. When we don't do and maintain, things fall apart. And that's like, for me, it's a 50-50 principle. Things will get dirtier, dustier, whatever, more corroded when we don't give it attention. But we can't give attention to everything all the time. Yeah, it can be overwhelming because we have a lot that we manage in our lives. Whether your house is big or small, you have a portion of it, or you're responsible for all of it. This is important to understand the impact that our responsibility, our stewardship, what we manage in life, the impact that it can have on our brains. Because a lot of that is done with a brain that has to be aware of, okay, I got to get going on this. I got to start this anew. When we're in routine and we're doing things the same way all the time, our brains can be more on that autopilot mode, and we're not relying on the executive function as much. We're able to just kind of skate and just kind of go through the motions and let our brain relax. And when we have to get back on track or get back into routine or add something new to the routine or plan out, okay, now that I'm doing this, I don't have time to do that. Do we have money in the budget to hire someone to do the yard? If so, how do I find somebody? And then carving out the time to meet someone and bring them over and look at all that. Yeah, I spent time last year researching yard tools because I thought, okay, we moved across the country. We didn't bring any yard tools because I didn't take care of them with our last house. And a lot of them rusted and stuff. And apparently you're supposed to oil them and you make sure they're clean after you use them. But no one teaches you that when you go to school. You just think, oh, you use yard clippers or loppers or whatever, and then just kind of lay them down on the ground or hang them up or something, and they'll be fine. And then all of a sudden your tools are rusted. If you live in a humid climate, we lived in Northern California where there were redwoods and stuff, and now we live in Florida where it's humid. But anyway, so I spent some time last year researching, okay, what do you do with tools to make sure that they don't fall apart? Because I want to spend some money on tools so I can take care of our front yard. And then I did the hyper focus thing where I went on to Lowe's website and Home Depot and researched out tools because I didn't want to buy the cheapest one. I wanted ones that lasted. So then I read all the reviews and then I spent money on the tools and I've never used them. They're out in the garage. I've never ever used them because right after I used them, I think I got sick. So then I couldn't use them. And then it turned to hot weather with Florida. And I wasn't going to go out there in the hot weather. So it's cool weather right now. And my brain is telling me, you still have those tools. The yard doesn't look much different. You could help them. But another thing that helped me is when I was feeling bad about my yard when we lived in the redwoods, is I mentioned it to one of my friends. And she said, I never drive up to your house and think, like, why haven't you taken care of the yard? Like, I never think that because to her, the side of the house where there were some bushes or around the front walkway where there were some bushes, that wasn't the star of the show of, like how they talk about curb appeal or something. I mean, obviously it wasn't all clean and stuff out there, but we lived in the redwoods and our house was pretty amazing looking. It looked like a gingerbread house. It wasn't huge, but it was nice. It was a 3-bedroom house, but it looked like a gingerbread house with a soup roof and real shingles, wooden shingles and everything. On this acre with redwoods and stuff. And so they said, when we come to your house, we're not looking at the bushes. We're seeing, like, oh, this house and the redwoods and everything. So that really helped me because I thought, oh, everyone's not noticing what I notice. I'm noticing my to-do list. They're not noticing that. So I'm trying to think that with this house. But then I look at all the other neighbors in our neighborhood and we all have big yards with a lot of trees, like little forests. But I treat the front yard like a forest, and their front yards are cleaner, cleaner at the ground. Some of them even have grass. So, yeah. So, what is your running to-do list? Do you have one? Is there something you can let go of? Because our brains are not designed to be using that executive function all the time. That's why we get overwhelmed when we have to do those things, the task initiation, the planning, the organization, the decision-making, learning something new. That's using the brain's command center, the executive function. When you have ADHD to whatever degree, you probably have executive dysfunction, having problems starting, staying on task, finishing tasks, or the impulse control. And then you think, well, I should do this instead. Or the memory problem where you go into another room and you forget that you're working on the other thing or, any of that. So, yeah. So we want our brains to be able to have a lot of time where they're not doing that, where they're doing the things that are familiar to us, that are enjoyable, that are routine. And every once in a while, if you get off a routine, it might take some of that executive function to get back into it. And if we want to make any changes, which is fun, if we want to do something new or focus on a different part of our house or get a new job or start a new business, I have a podcast now. I didn't 2 years ago. Well, I really started this early last year, but I didn't get really regular with it till maybe spring. But this wasn't part of my week. And now that it is, when I look at my days, I think, okay, you need to take some time out of your day, go upstairs and make your podcast. And I love it when I do, but sometimes it's hard for me to get away from what I was doing downstairs. But if I do that, I'll walk back downstairs and this will still need to be done. But I've made the decision that this is more important. And that's what you have to do when you realize something's important to you, something else will have to just be fine without me. I'll have to let go of that. I'll have to let go of the impossible to-do list. I'll look at it as maybe instead of a to-do list, just a running list of things in my mind that I'd like to do or that need to wait. Or my focus journal that I have on there, I have the do later list. I love the idea of the do later list because there are a lot of things that I want to do, but I can do those later and I can write those down as they come up in my mind. If you want my focus journal, I think I talked about it last time. Oh my goodness, that's been my thing I've been working on since my last podcast is revamping my focus journal and my focus guide and my 5-day focus course, which are all free right now. Eventually, I probably will charge for the 5-day focus course. I can't even talk. But right now, the only thing on my website that has a cost, and even on that page, there are some free options, is the yoga. Because I've made some free yoga classes if you want to try any of them, just even the really simple 10-minute, 15, 20-minute ones, lie down and let go. Those are free, but I've been teaching yoga online for years and I have over 100 yoga classes on there that are recorded. Those ones cost money. But even with that, I think I have a 21-day free. You could try those out if you wanted. And they really are, I think for the most part, like probably only a few of them weren't live classes. There were a few times that I thought, oh, I want to make some short ones. And so I just make some short videos, some short classes that weren't real classes because all my real ones are an hour long. But back to the focus journal, I redid it and I made it so you can find it on my website on the front page. And I'm still revamping that because, I have never taken a class in this or anything. I'm just learning as I go and I keep changing it because, that's what we have, ideas, ideas. But I've revamped that and it's available in pink or blue because I used to have my website be blue and that's how it started, have it in pink. And same with my focus guide. And then the idea is I wanted you to be able to print it out if you wanted to print it out, put it in a folder and write on it. Because sometimes like with the journal, that's set up really as a parking lot for your thoughts. So it's not, you can if you want. You could write like, the idea of the brain dump, just get every thought out that you need. And maybe it's even just, processing things that are going on in your head. But really the focus journal is more of a notebook or what I call a parking lot for your thoughts of when you're trying to focus on something and you have all these other to-dos or ideas or wants or I need to remember or I forgot, you have a place to write them down. And when I used to just do this in a notebook, I found that I had to have categories. I had to have columns because I couldn't just write them all on one page. It was a big mess. So I had one for things I need to buy. One was my do later list. One had to do with family. One had to do with Christmas. One had to, whatever. I ended every time an idea came up that had a different category, I just made a new column and it helped release things in my brain from being that running to-do list or, oh no, I'm not going to remember this. Maybe I should do this right now. And it kept me focused because it's just super easy. Like for example, yesterday I was writing a text to my friend and in the text, and it was a longer text granted, but in the text, I wanted to tell her, I don't even know how it came about, that when I went to visit my daughter, when she just bought this house, and I wanted to tell her it was a historic house that was built in the 1800s. Well, I wanted to have the exact year. I didn't want to just say built in the 1800s. So I went onto Instagram because my daughter's Instagram name is the year of her house. I went to look it up. And of course, I spent a half hour on Instagram forgetting that I went on there to look up the year of her house. And after I was on Instagram for a half hour, which I hardly even go on there, but of course you see things and then, oh, I've had 3 messages from people and oh, they want me to watch this video. Half hour later, I'm like, okay, what was I doing? Oh yeah, I was writing that text to Holly. I go back to my text and see where I was. And I thought, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that's why I went to Instagram. I did not even remember that. If I had my journal next to me or just any notebook, but I love the journal idea too, because you could do it online or on paper. But if I had that next to me, because I didn't really think about that being something I needed to focus on because it was just a whim. It wasn't like, oh, I'm focusing on this project right now. But if I did that, I would write down at the top, like look up a house year or something. And then once I went onto Instagram, if something else came up, I put that do later, like look at her notes later or something. I've also used Post-its sometimes and just put it on my computer that just says, only look at this if I go on social media. So you could use it either way. You can write your note to tell you what to only do, or have your journal there to write down all the thoughts that you don't want to forget later that you need to get out of your brain so you could get things done. But yeah, I have no idea where I went with that. But just to say that having a do later list, I think that's why I went there. Having a do later list, or even just knowing in your brain, you don't have to write it down. To me, it's helpful to write it down. But even if you just know this could be a do later thing, it doesn't have to be a do today thing. This could be a do next month, next year, all those things. Yeah. Some things take daily effort. And, like if you want to run in a marathon, if that's a do later, it does take some planning and preparing to get there. I've never wanted to run a marathon, but I still want to be able to drop back into a back bend. I can go from the ground up and I can go from the wall down. And I haven't gotten the abdominal strength yet for that. It takes leg strength too. The older you get, you realize the things that when you did when you're younger aren't as aren't as easy. Yeah, I'd love to do a back walk over again too. I act like I was a gymnast. I really wasn't, but we just did it on the playground because I never took gymnastics classes. But it just felt good to be able to do that, and I even did it into high school. And I don't think I've done it since I've had kids. And now I'm a grandma, but I still want to be able to do it. So anyway, whatever your goals are, don't feel like you have to give up on your goals. You can do them if they have planning, but if you can't do them today, that's okay. That's okay. Just letting go. It doesn't mean you have to let go of your to-do list forever. It just means each day you have to let go of the idea that you could do everything that you wanted to do, wished you could do, or just couldn't do. Because, life is 50-50. Sometimes we don't have the energy. Sometimes our feet hurt, your back hurts, whatever. The older you get, if you're getting older, I think everyone's getting older, but we act like we're not. The older you get, new things show up in the knee, the back, the whatever. 2 things. Okay. This is my last thing I'm going to tell you. And I don't make money off of any of this. I did sign up to be an Amazon affiliate, but it's not like I have anything set up with it yet. But I could add things like this. Sometimes I think of putting in my blog just things that are helpful for women with ADHD. And I'll probably do that. And I may have Amazon affiliate links, and maybe I'll make $3 or something that helps me pay for my podcast. But things that are really helpful if you haven't used them before are that kinesiology tape, the KT tape that you see athletes wear, like in the Olympics or basketball teams or football teams or whatever. It really works. And you can find YouTube videos that tell you how to use it. If you have a knee that hurts and you can't go to the chiropractor forever, or foot or whatever, really does make a difference, or even in between physical therapy visits or something. The other thing, because I'm telling you the things that distract me during the day is like, well, my foot hurts. Well, go tape it up and I'll feel a lot better. But the other thing is if you go to the physical therapist and they put that, have they ever had those little, they're like sticky things on you that are connected to a little machine. I think they call it a stim machine when you're at the physical therapist, but it kind of shocks you. And I was scared the first time because I had him turn it up and then the guy walked away and it was too much. It was too high. But after that, I never went that high and it wasn't as scary. But it really kind of just stimulates that area, kind of like you've been massaged, but it doesn't feel that great. But it really does help. And my friend told me that Amazon sells little pocket versions of that. And they don't call them stim machines on Amazon. They call them TENS. And I have no idea. Why. It's TENS, and they make different kinds. And I bought one for my son. They have cautions on there, like there's parts of your body you're not supposed to put them on, like near your heart and a couple other places. So you have to watch for that. But I put them on my low back or my shoulder or something if it's bothering me. And it makes it so I can get a lot done, because it's important to me to get a lot done so I can keep functioning. But anyway, thanks for listening. You are the best. I know I can be all over the place when I'm talking. And I have done public speaking before where I can, go through steps and speak a little more organized in a more organized fashion. I think when there's real people in front of me, I do. But with you out there listening, I don't know, I feel more comfortable because I'm talking to people who are more like me, and it makes me feel more at ease, and I can be who I need to be, who I am. And I hope you feel that way too. I hope that you feel that way too. I don't know. Okay, last thought is I was on Reddit the other day in the ADHD women group, and someone asked, who do you think characters in movies, TV shows are people with ADHD? And a lot of them I'd never heard of them. But it was really interesting because, like, one was Anne Shirley, from Anne of Green Gables, how she was always wondering and ducking, and in some ways she didn't quite fit in, and talking more than she should. Or Frankie Heck on The Middle. I don't know if you've ever seen The Middle, but she just made me feel so good. I thought, you are a mom like me who is sending the note the last second, or you forgot to do this for the field trip, or that was the kind of mom I was. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And, yeah, there were a lot of really great characters. And I thought, they're all my favorite people. We love people, like even Kramer, how he's always running into things and falling over, and and his brain was halfway somewhere else. He didn't chatter a lot, like he wasn't that kind of person. But yeah, it made me feel good to know that some of the most entertaining, fun people, or at least the characters that I'm drawn to, are more ADHD like. They're more exciting to talk to, listen to. Of course, Lorelai on Gilmore Girls. I don't know if you've seen that. I've actually only watched 1 or 2 episodes. My daughters love it. But I knew her from Seinfeld. I knew that character, and she reminds me a lot of my friend Melissa. They look alike and they talk alike. And I've always been drawn to people who talk a lot because I love to know what's going on in people's minds. And you get to hear more about that when they talk a lot. But anyway, thanks again for being here. Yeah. I would invite you to my website. You're welcome to go there and sign up for the Focus Journal or the Focus Guide or the 5-Day Focus Challenge. It starts every Monday. It's free. You get an email from me each day starting on a Monday, but you get a email first that's prep. But I'm actually redoing it. So that means I need to have it done by Monday. There are emails that go out. And when I first did it, I made videos to go with each email. And I know I need to update them because I made some changes. So it's kind of like, this is what I was thinking today. It's kind of like when someone's coming over to your house, then you hurry and get ready for it because people are coming. And I feel like that's what this podcast has done for me, is that when I come on here, I feel like I need to tell you what I'm working on, but I can be pretty scattered about working on things. And there's so many aspects to get it up and running online that I haven't always had all the pieces of the machinery going well. And so when I come on, I think I have to have this ready. So when I tell them about it, it's actually working. And sometimes that's happened and sometimes it hasn't. But I think my ADHD quiz is finally up and working, doing what I want it to do. Time will tell. I'll probably revamp that again too. But I guess that's it for today. For real, for real. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being out there. I'll make another podcast to come on maybe Thursday this week. And hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye.
Open windows, broken shadows. Frozen dreams are left for tomorrow. Without a cause. No time for a pause. The silence of sound has yet been found, but not by me.